look back, to review, and sometimes right after the holidays, jumping into the new year can feel a little bit overwhelming. It can feel like, oh my gosh, like I can't get my mind around things. How am I going to set resolutions or be philosophical or, be able to look back on things? So hopefully now, today, that we are coming to the end of January, we can really look forward in a positive way. So, welcome to my YouTube audience. I'm so glad that you're here. Again, I'm Carrie Donegan, and this is Radical Age Reversal. The idea of this show is to help you age gracefully and to help you go into your later years with a youthful, not only appearance, but mind, body, soul, and spirit. We want the entire package to be young, and not in terms of stealing youth from the young, because we know that every stage in life is glorious and every stage in life brings its blessings. But we don't want to allow the negative things of the outside world to break us down. Our bodies were created to be magnificent machines that work perfectly. It's only when we let some of the things from the outside world in that we start to see a breakdown and we don't live our absolute best life. And how do we know if we're living our absolute best life? Well, we learn from those around us. We see what's possible, and we have to understand that what others have, and not that we're looking at them from an envious way, but we're looking at them with docility. I came across that word today when I was doing some reading, and I wanted to share with you what I learned about the word docile. So, at the root of the word docility is the concept of being able to learn. And I think as long as we continue to learn and we continue to grow, our youth stays with us, because I think one of the principal tenets of being young is actually to be in a mode where you're always learning, where you're always growing, where knowledge is something that you're consuming. And one of the beautiful things about knowledge, and something that my grandfather used to say to me all the time, is knowledge is the one thing that they can't take away from you. So I think it's really important for us to be lifelong learners. That's one key element to keeping longevity and to keeping your mind sharp, your body sharp, and to incorporate all the things, the positive things, right? Which means we also have to have a discerning heart. We have to be able to know, is this activity going to serve me, or is it something that I should walk away from? And we can cover a lot of those topics in future episodes, but I wanted to kind of just throw them out there, things for you to consider. Maybe take this time with this podcast to be a little bit contemplative, a little reflective, a little recollected, meaning that you are giving yourself time to pause, giving yourself time to look back and to look forward at the same time. And so, to start off our discussion today, I wanted to introduce some of my favorite roll ons when it comes to taking time to consider and be docile, be teachable, be open, right? Open your heart to some new ideas, new concepts, and not to be afraid that they're going to be too difficult, that you're not going to be able to achieve them, that they're not worthy of your time, that you're too busy, all of the little roadblocks that get in our way of actually allowing ourselves to become the perfectly beautiful humans that we were intended to be. And then we're all on a journey, right? So we have to first forgive ourselves, because I think sometimes we can forgive others really well, but it's hard to forgive ourselves. And I remember when doTERRA came out with this blend, Forgive, I thought it was a little bit corny. I was like, oh yeah, forgiveness in a bottle. That's weird. And maybe you're feeling that way too, and that's okay. That's totally okay. But one of the things that I've found from a scientific standpoint, because that's where I go first, like, show me the formula, what's going on in this blend. So, one of the things that I know and have learned about Forgive, it's really, really good for your respiratory system. So, it's going to help you breathe. And it's also part of our microbiome. And so, I think it's really important for us to realize that as Americans in 2024, when this is being recorded, that our microbiomes are under serious attack. And that now that we're studying the microbiome, we're seeing that so many people are depleted of the good bacteria and other pathogens that are necessary for a full and healthy life. And so, replacing, encouraging, and protecting different microbiomes is really should be a priority for us, especially if you're on a longevity path, especially if you're on this radical age reversal path. And so, one of the things that I've started to incorporate, especially when I want to take some time to reflect, to be quiet, to think, is forgive. And I love that it comes in a roll on, and I take it and I just put it on my temples. Now you're probably thinking, you just said it was for your lungs. So why are you putting it here? Well, I like to actually almost create like a face frame for myself with oils sometimes. And I like that because you get this scent circle around your face. Your face is a shape of an oval or it could be a circle. But what's great about that is your face has so many unique properties that the rest of your body doesn't have. And I think we want to spend some special attention with that. We don't use the same lotions on our face as we do on our body, our hands, and our feet. The skin is different. There's so many different senses that are found in your face. Just think about it, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, like all of this is attached to your head, so near your face. This is a really important part of our bodies. And so we can utilize that when it comes to essential oils and our olfactory system by just like painting with our oils around our sense points. So I like to put them around my ears and along my neck. I also do the other one. If you ever have ringing in your ears, one of the things that I found is really good is just to use some oils here in the front. Sometimes that can come from inflammation. Sometimes that can come from inner ear issues. Sometimes it can come from just, those headphones or too much noise, right? Just too much sound, loud televisions, loud chaos, constant stimulus. And so just taking time to add your essential oils around these parts of your body are going to be really good. So I also like to roll them around my eyes. Okay. I got them under my nose. I got them around my ears. You can also draw a little line around your mouth. And you can use your essential oils on your lips if you want. It can also be very healing to the skin. I would only use the roll-ons because they have the coconut oil in them and you don't want to dry the skin. But then you can also take the oils because I love Forgive, so good for the lungs, and you can just paint your palm and go ahead and inhale from your hands. Okay. I think when your breathing is regulated, it's easier for you to think. And maybe that is the foundation of a place where you can start to forgive. Now, when I started to talk to you today about our topic, which is growing up versus growing old, it occurred to me that a lot of times what stops us from growing up and instead de not de well derail is sort of the word that comes to mind, but redirects us in a different on a different path to growing old. I feel like we have these moments in life where our we have that why, right? That why at conversions and paths, and sometimes we go on a path of growing up, and sometimes we go on a path of growing old. Now, if you've been my audience for a while, you're probably saying, well, I'm already a grown up. I'm over 50. What is she talking about? Growing up versus growing old. I'm already a grown up. And it was that word that actually got me thinking about longevity and the path that we're on. And the idea is if you take those two words, right, grow up, they're super positive. But I think we have this negative connotation that comes from this sort of Peter Pan world of idyllic childhood that you don't want to grow up because then you don't want to lose your vitality, you don't want to use your usefulness, you don't want to lose your joy, your playfulness, right? There was sort of this concept that came with a negative attributes to this word grow up, right? So grown ups are people who are serious, and grown-ups are people who don't have fun, and grown-ups are people who are responsible, and responsibility is a bad thing. But I think if we just take those bad connotations off the words and just scrub them and look at them in their purest form, we realize that grow is good, right? And up is good. And so growing up, right? Being the best version of ourselves is really what we want. That becoming a grown up, right? When we say to children, hopefully in a positive way, you need to grow up. You need to grow up in a way where you're expanding and you're growing into the full human person that you are intended to be, that you are taking all your gifts and talents and you're putting them into practice, you're refining them, you're growing them, and you're raising them up. We talk a lot about achievement, but we don't do good service to growing up. And maybe that's why we're seeing a decline in health as people age, because they looked at growing up as such a negative thing that they started to attack themselves with foods and alcohol and what I call numbing agents like drugs, marijuana, um, excessive binge television watching, sex, and breaking all the rules, like all of those things that seem to be counter to this concept of growing up, being a grown up. But all of those things have had an effect on us as adults, as young people. And for a lot of people, those very things were the things that actually put them on the path of growing old. And so we're going to stop where we are today and look at 2024 in a different way. We're going to look at it in a way where we are going to be moving on a path of growing up, of taking ourselves and becoming the best version of ourselves, no matter what age we are or what happened in the past, but actually taking who we are right now and growing up into the best possible version of ourselves. And I'm going to give you a little analogy that I heard this morning, which I thought was really beautiful. And if you've ever been to an art museum and you've seen these really rich, glorious tapestries, right? And they're very intricate. And if you have the opportunity and the blessing to actually go up really, really close to a tapestry, you can see how perfect the needlework is from the front, from what the artist wants you to see, what the artisan wants you to see. And then if you can, or if you have a piece of tapestry in your home and you flip it over on the other side, what you see is all these little excess strings and knots, and the picture is gone, right? It just becomes this sort of tangled mess behind the tapestry. But the tapestry in the front, the intended purpose of all of those strings, is brilliantly demonstrated in the front. Now, you can use the analogy of a tapestry of life in so many different ways. But today I want you to look at it in the terms of these two words, growing up and growing old. And so your intended life, all of the strings, all of the paths were intended to create the most perfect picture, the front of the tapestry. But many of us have kind of got tangled in the back of the tapestry. And we spend a lot of time looking at the mess and seeing the mess, and we don't see the beauty of the front. And so that's why I wanted to start today's podcast off with forgive. And if you can, perhaps in 2024, commit yourself as a grown up to forgiving those around you and yourself for all of the entanglements that happened in the back of the tapestry, and focus on the front of your life, where you are today, and stay in gratitude for the beauty that you see. Now, if your eyes are cloudy because of pain, because of hardship, because of struggle, because of loss, because of broken dreams and promises, all of the things all of us as humans face, right? This is not something that anyone was able to escape in their life. And yes, you can take a look at someone else's life and say, oh, their life is better than mine. They have more money, they have more opportunity, they're smarter, they're more beautiful. Those are all gifts. But I would absolutely 100% tell you that there is someone else who is looking at your life right now and saying the exact same things. So we're going to do two practices today that it's going to help us. And this is going to be a series, growing up versus growing old. This is we're kind of taking longevity deeper into a whole new path and looking at it a little bit differently in the next year ahead. But I want you first, again, we're going to focus on forgiveness, right? We have to take some of the baggage that we're walking with and we have to put it down so we can have a lighter life. That's really important. For those of you who I said are really, really struggling with so much pain and suffering and hurt, and you might be right in the midst of the deepest part of it right now, the deepest part of loss, the deepest part of pain, the deepest part of sickness and illness. I understand that you may actually be in a place where it's super hard to be grateful for anything. But I want you to then use past tense. Now, again, these are not magic erasers. It's not like you take your essential oil out and you start rolling it on and it just wipes away all of your troubles and all of your obstacles and all of your pain. It doesn't work that way. But there are essential oils that do work with your brain chemistry. They work with your electrical system, right? And we're going to talk in February a lot about electrolytes and the electrical system of the body and grounding in the earth and all kinds of cool things. So that's coming up. But I want you to know that past tense is an oil that is good for emotional and physical pain. So if this is you, if you are kind of in the storm, right? You're in the storm right now. You're not looking at it from a perspective of someone who made it through, although you're going to make it through, right? I want you to use this oil in 2024. Past tense can be your anchor oil. For someone who's kind of come through it and you need to start releasing it and forgiving people, then use forgive as your anchor oil for 2024. All right. If you're in the middle of it, I want you to use past tense. Now, past tense is wonderful because it's going to give you a physical feeling of calm, and it's going to hopefully reduce some of that physical pain. You may also feel some emotional release. You may feel like you want to cry, and that's fine. You may feel like you can breathe a little more deeply. And again, these anchor oils, I want to talk to you about as something that you're going to really focus on with your face and your senses. If you have to do this looking in a mirror, do this looking in a mirror. But the idea is you're going to roll this on your temple to start, go over the hemisphere of your forehead. This kind of creates a balance between the two hemispheres of the brain, and it allows you to center yourself. When you're centered and you're focused and you're less scattered, you can deal with things in a calmer way. This is why meditation prayer is so helpful for people. This is why we put kids in timeouts, right? Like they just need a moment, a quiet moment. And I know a lot of people make fun of this concept of a timeout, but these are really important things. It's one of the reasons why, and again, we're trying to grow up, right? So some of the things that were given to us as children that we thought were punishments actually had a purpose. And so let's dig into those and look at the purpose of a timeout, right? It was a time away from distractions, right? Usually, if you were in a timeout, things were taken away from you, whether it was a toy or a friend or a moment of play, right? And you were put there just to sit and think and regroup. Allow yourself that time in a positive way. Okay. See it as a grown up, see it from a more elevated position and not one of just punishment. So once you've balanced your brain, again, and we did this with the forgive, you can do the same thing with the past tense. Go around your ears. Okay, never in your ears. And especially work on this area. I don't know why, but I'm finding that a lot of people have, the ringing in the ears. There's a lot of balance issues. We're seeing a lot of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, dementia, and these points on the head, these like the the temples here around the ears. These are points that don't get worked enough. And I think in 2024, we're going to really focus on these. And again, I want you to choose an anchor oil and make this something that you're going to use every day. Use it as part of your skincare routine. And then you're going to ring your face, right? Just create a circle around your face, because this is also going to create almost like a nice little diffuser effect. So you're going to have surrounding your skin. You're going to be able to breathe it in. If you like the oil and it's not too sensitive under your nose, sometimes past tense can be a little bit strong. So you have to test this one out first. If you find that it's too tingly, get some more coconut oil. But this is also already diluted, and just put that under your nose so that you're breathing it in. All right. So we're trying to activate our senses. You're going to go around your eyes. All right. This is also going to help with those wrinkles. It's going to help with relaxing the face a little bit, right? The tension that we store in our senses, right? So our eyes, our nose, our ears, our mouth. Now, some of these oils you're actually going to start to taste. And I'm going to talk to you some more about activating taste with essential oils. And we're not going to have time to go through that today, but I really want all of your senses to be alive. Because when our senses are fully alive, then we can see our life more clearly, right? And this is one of the benefits of kind of stepping back and growing up, right? Not growing old, but growing up. And then if this is going to be your anchor oil, then go ahead and paint your palm and rub your hands together and breathe that in. Now, I have a couple other choices that may resonate with you. The first one is rose. Now, doTERRA just had a special. Hopefully, you benefited from this, but even if you didn't, I recommend that this is an oil that you just have on hand. If you feel like healing is what you are called to do at this time of 2024. So maybe you are out of the storm, right? You're not in the storm. So past tense isn't that oil. You're not looking to forgive yourself, to put down burdens, right? That's a little bit different than what I'm talking about now. Rose is about a specific healing, right? So um, you have a specific opening in your life that hasn't closed that you want to close. All right. So it's not about a burden, a forgiveness, something you're holding on to. This is about something that's laying open in your life that needs to be closed. There needs to be closure. There needs to be healing. There needs to be completion for you to move on in 2024. I think rose is a perfect oil for that. One of the things we've learned about rose through the Johns Hopkins study is it's one of the 4 oils that is active against any possible pathogen. So maybe there's a physical ailment that you're doing fine with, but it just hasn't come to a close. Or maybe you have come through a treatment process and your doctor says, yeah, you're doing really, really great. And you just want to make sure that you can start healing that particular aspect of your life. Maybe you've lost a lot of weight over the last few years and now you are at your goal weight and you want to kind of hold it and close that in. If these are the types of things that kind of resonate with you, then maybe rose is your anchor oil for 2024. And again, you can use all these oils if you want, but sometimes I think picking one can make it just a little easier to build a habit. And so you're going to, again, just over the temple, across the hemispheres, around the temple, around the ears, especially paying attention to this front part of the ear and the mastoid bone behind. I love to go down in the neck, especially with rose, because really good for wrinkles. And then the back of the head is also a really good spot. I think I forgot to mention that earlier. Over the nose, around the eyes, right? And then in your hands to inhale. Okay. And then I have one last choice. If you are future focused, okay, so let's say you feel like you've put your burdens down. So forgive is not your anchor oil for 2024. Thank God you're not in the middle of a big storm, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, right? So past tense, right now you're not in the midst of the storm. That's not your season. So that's not going to be your anchor oil. Things in your life have closed, they've come to a full circle, right? Like maybe everything is healed and you don't feel like rose is the oil for you for 2024, then I would introduce the oil of hope. For those of you who feel like you're in a position of starting something new, of moving forward, you feel very creative right now in your life. You feel like you're on the precipice of starting something new and exciting. That's really where your heart is, that you are ready for a life change. Then I would recommend that 2024 be anchored in hope, whether that's hope for your own personal future, for those around you. You feel you're called on some kind of grand mission to contribute, whether it's, I don't know, working for a charity or writing a book or creating a new podcast or, um, moving to a different town or a country, or just, maybe your kids have left your home and now you're starting out as an empty nester. Any of those things. Maybe you've even lost someone in your life and you've brought closure to that point and you're ready to move on in a new way. I think hope can be a brilliant anchor oil for that. And again, we're going to do it the same way. We're going to roll it on over our temples, across the hemisphere. You're going to circle your face, the whole thing. I'm going to go around the ears, especially in the front and the back on the mastoid bone. And you're going to do your eyes. And you can do this once a day. You can do this twice a day. It's just, we're building a habit. And you can do this when you brush your teeth, before you go to bed, next to your coffee. Okay, you're building a habit. Stack it on something else. It's going to make it so much easier. And you're going to take that hope, paint your hands, breathe it in. The longer you can breathe in these oils, the better. But remember, when we created that frame around our face, we created a little diffuser for ourselves. So you don't have to worry about incorporating a time into your life where you're like sitting in front of a diffuser for that 20-minute period. Those oils are going to travel with you. All right, so we've kind of come to the end of our time today. I really appreciate you're joining me. You could be in a lot of different places, and the fact that you're here hopefully means that I had something positive to offer you. If you learned something today and you want to add that to the comment section, I'd appreciate that feedback. It's always good to hear from the audience. And again, I encourage you to focus this year on growing up. Whatever that means, wherever that's going to take you, we're going to explore that. but I want you to use something tangible like an anchor oil, something that's going to remind you of how you're growing up this year. Maybe you're going to grow up in forgiveness to yourself and others and lay those burdens down. Maybe you're in the middle of a horrible storm and 2024 doesn't look very good and you need to relieve some tension. You need some peace. You need to put the tense in the past. So use some past tense as your anchor oil. Maybe you got through the storm and you laid your burdens down already, and you just have this closure that needs to happen in 2024, that you just need to kind of bring some doors closing, or you need to do some, final healing physically. You're just kind of wrapping things up in a good way. Then I would recommend rose as your anchor oil. And then last but not least, if you feel like you are on the verge of a year that's going to be filled with a brand new start and you are going to grow up into a whole new phase of life, into a whole new person, then I would anchor your year in hope. So these are my recommendations for you. I hope that one of these resonates with you and that you're going to start to think of these words grow up in a more positive, different way. And you're going to see that growing up leads to a life of longevity and vitality, and that growing old is taking us down a path that we don't want to probably want to avoid. And I think if you're all here listening to this podcast, then we're all united in the same mindset. We are all looking to grow up and to grow into something amazing, not to grow old and to fall apart. All right. So, again, thanks so much. The information is free, it's there for you. Please, if you feel like any of it was of benefit, that you'll pass it on to someone else, that it's the greatest thing that can happen in terms of a payback for me. And so I wish you all the best, and I'll see you next week. God bless.